There's only one way to eat a brace of conies.
What's it doing? Stupid fat animal. Ruins it.
Hi everyone and welcome to Priority Holder, and today we'll be playing Samwise Gamgee in the Historic Brawl format. Now Samwise is a 2-mana 2/2, that whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under our control, we create a food token. We can sacrifice 3 foods to return a historic card from our graveyard to our hand. So what we're hoping to do is stitch together some zany combo and win the game that way. Now Samwise is already making waves in Modern because together with Cauldron Familiar and a sack outlet can just win the game outright. However, because we're in Historic Brawl, we don't have access to black, and it makes the combos way more janky. Such as this one I thought of. Samwise plus an Ornithopter plus any 2 token doublers and a sack outlet lets you loop that Ornithopter an arbitrary amount of times. However, that just doesn't do anything. So we need some way to profit off that. So we can use God Eternal Ketcher to make zombies, or we could charge the Death Star with Aetherflux Reservoir. Another combo that's sort of similar to that is Samwise plus Altar of Dementia plus any 2 token doublers and Feasting Troll King. That allows us to mill the opponent 7 cards at a time and then return Troll King using its food sacrificing ability to create a loop. And another card that should be shouted out is Rosie Cotton of South Lane. Now she lets us place 1/1 counters every time we create tokens. With all the food tokens flying around, she can just help us win through combat. So it's cool that the couple of Sam and Rosie synergize together. However, Rosie has a very powerful combo, infinite combo, with Scurry Oak. So throw that one in there, we can maybe assemble that combo. But it doesn't stop there, because Scurry Oak also combos with Heliod and a Soul Warden creature. And so we have this sort of weaving intersection of combos we're hoping to pull together during these games. Now I want to shout out a few high synergy cards with Samwise that are really cool. Inspiring Statuary turns food tokens into mana rocks. Yoshin Dissident allows us just to place tons of counters for the food tokens. And Steel Shaper allows us to put lands in our hand or just sort of surveil off the food tokens. And lastly, Rampage of the Clans is another way to profit off a pile of food tokens by just turning them into creatures and smashing it for the win. So anyway, this is just a zany deck. Let's jump into some games. And for game 1, look at that. We have Samwise versus Frodo. Showdown for the ages. Now I sort of snap off, keep this hand. Retrospect, I'm not sure if that was super advisable, but we do have Inspiring Statuary, which is really strong. So we'll have to see. Frodo comes down turn 1. We get the turn 2 Samwise into Ornithopter power play. Just get the food tokens flowing. Let's see what the opponent follows up with. And yeah, they just activate Frodo. So they turn into a 2/3 lifelink. We cannot block it at this point. And we'll need to watch out for that third mode potentially sniping us. So right now we're in no danger though. Besides, more mana efficient to get down Inspiring Statuary. Can really help generate a ton of mana over the long term. So opponent shocks that in. Bilbo's Ring. Very thematic play by them. And yes, still not blocking. Now Bilbo's Ring can grant them hexproof on their turn. So it's not the most concerning thing, but decide just to go ahead and Heliod's Punishment. I think if that was an untapped white source, definitely would have played like God Eternal Catcher this turn instead. But now we just drop Heliod's Punishment on Frodo, and that's just gonna grind them to a halt. They play Palantir of Orthanc. I'm having to read to see what is going on here with that. But once again, the opponent so far seems to very strictly adhere to the Lord of the Rings cards, but they got some powerful ones. So basically, it accumulates counters, they get to scry 2, and then we could either mill and lose life to the total mana value, or let them have the card. And so basically, it's going to get increasingly risky, increasingly costly to just let them have cards Now here's where we're really going off. So we're able to go, thanks to Inspiring Statuary, we're able to go Beast Whisperer into Emil, and we're just going off right now. So every food token's a mana rock thanks to Inspiring Statuary, so that allowed us for like that power turn. Nazgul from the opponent, helping Frodo out here instead of hunting him. Yeah, and Frodo is shackled by us. So here comes another Palantir. And it's sort of a weird thing, because they're getting to scry, but we're sort of like... I guess they could set up for the Palantir. It's like a little mind game. They could set up for Palantir, or they could set up for what they actually want. So we could just be milling cards that they actually want to keep on top. So it's sort of a weird dynamic. Meanwhile, it's like Trigger City over here. We're just getting more and more things going on. Probably could have spent the mana for the counter. You see I end up not playing... Anyway. It would have been worth it for the Devil Striker to get an extra counter, so that was a misplay right there. Golem from the opponent. Bilbo's Ring onto Frodo. May not be good enough, though, with what we have going on. But Palantir is accumulating counters pretty rapidly, but we have tons of food tokens, so I end up just doing like no fear, just lose life, and we are not being punished for it so far. Could have done an end of turn Emil activation. Wanted to hold it up in response to like a removal spell, so decide just not to do it. Would have given us another food token though, but Aetherflux Reservoir is interesting. That can help us combat the life loss from Palantir. So, and not only that, but if we can crack enough food tokens, we might be able to just fire the Death Star at them, win that way. Okay, so opponent does get a ring tempt with their Golem dying. Helps out Frodo's ability and also helps out the Nazgul, so had to be careful about how many ring temps we let them have. And conclude with the Alter Dementia. Now here, you're starting to see a partial loop come together. What we need is like a token doubler to like make it infinite at this point, but what we can do is we could sacrifice Ornithopter, mill them for 0, but we just want to get it in the graveyard. Samwise can then reclaim it by sacrificing 3 food tokens. In and of itself doesn't matter that much, but we have a Beast Whisperer and God Eternal Ketra, so every creature cast gets us a 4/4 and a card. And so you could see that with enough token doublers, we could loop this indefinitely, run through our deck, making it, arbitrarily huge amount of 4/4s, but it turns out that was enough. So on our way to the next game, please like, comment, subscribe. Supports the channel and helps you know what the people want. Thank you. Now, on this next game, we're facing the first Sliver. These tend to be very powerful sort of mismatches. They're just trying to cascade into whatever nonsense they can. So snap off this hand, but it's looking a little strange. Like, we do have a Mana Dork, we do have some things going on, but they're sort of pieces of different combos that don't necessarily do anything together. Relic of Legends from the opponent. Tapland here is a little punishing, but we're able to still play Arcane Signet into Soul Warden. So this is where the sort of disparate combos are working against us, because Soul Warden is part of the Heliod combo. We don't really care about it outside of that. And Animation Module combos with Rosie, which we also don't have. So we're hoping to make something happen, but opponent already slammed first Sliver and has gotten some value out of that. Now Parallel Lives is pretty tempting here to try and get a lot more going with Build a Pony. And we do have Paradox Engine, but it's looking pretty grim. The opponent has a 7/7, and then they seem to have a Cascade theme, because here comes Emoti into Uro. So yeah, it's like 5-color good stuff. And I don't think our Soul Warden could keep up with the beatdown we're about to be experiencing. So Uro gets them a land, Emoti lands, and then Nightmare Scenario, the Relic is insanely strong. They're able to play Oracle and Moldiah right afterwards, so it's not looking great for us right now. Like I said, we just gotta we got a bunch of combos that don't work together. Declaration of Stone just doesn't seem like enough right now. Opt to just slam Bill the Pony. It'll net us a bunch of foods, but we just can't really do anything with them right now. Hoping to find some like way to start drawing a bunch of cards. Opponent gets 2 lands off Oracle. Staff of Completion, that's tough. Having to read all the modes on it. Firemine Vessel, so opponent has like infinite mana going on over there. Paradise Druid. The thing is, if they can ever find anything big, then they're going to get Cascades off Emoti, and it's just going to start getting nasty. Here comes a 7/7 our way. Take a huge hit. It's looking bleak, and yeah, opponent can pay life with the Bandit. We're not threatening them at all. Touch the Spirit Realm. Could either flicker one of our things or lock down one of theirs. Play Paradox Engine, but once again, hoping to like get some sort of card draw source to get us out of this, but it's looking increasingly dire every single turn for them. And you could see me move to accelerated speed here because things get real nasty with the Chandra. And I know how to pack it in here once they've solved the equation and copy it, because they're going to get some powerful spells. And look at that, Ruinous Ultimatum with a Cascade for good measure, so we are super dead. So that was sort of like the failing of like trying to assemble a combo, but having so many different ones running through it that they just sort of clashed with each other. So now we're playing Russo Clockmaker. And yeah, the hand looks good so far. We're hoping to like accelerate out, you know, God Eternal Ketra and Soul of the Harvest. We have multiple ramp creatures, so opponent starts with Bank Buster. And are able to go, yeah, make sure the Delighted Halfling is helping us here. For some reason the arena is very hesitant to actually use it. So because it taps for Colorless, it sort of like adds it to the low priority mana sources. Anyway, it's very strange, but you can see already that, well, that Delighted Halfling might cause some problems down the line. Now slam Welcoming Vampire here, really wanting to draw some cards, because we're able to follow up with Soul Warden. It's food token neutral here, because we have to sacrifice one to Gilded Goose, but get one back with Samwise. There is an argument for just slamming God Eternal Ketra before either of those two, but like I said, I was really interested in locking down some card draw. Alright, opponent slams Russo. It's an interesting card that every time it enters the battlefield, it creates a midnight clock for them. And every time they cast a non-creature, it adds an extra counter onto midnight clock. So I'm getting excited about Welcoming Vampire. That's why I slam Yoshin Dissident. Maybe would have been better to slam Heliod. Hard to say. I guess I still have mana to slam Heliod, but opt for Guardian Project. I was just sort of tunnel visioned in on the card draw at this point. But we're able to slam it with Welcoming Vampire, and it's looking promising for us because we're drawing cards. We have a lot going on. Displacer Kitten. Now that is a problem. Inquisition, and oh man, that really sucks because there goes Heliod. We really wanted that to start going off with Soul Warden. Not to mention it gets them a free Russo Flicker, so the clocks are starting to accumulate over there. Displacer Kitten is going to be a huge problem if we can't deal with it, and yeah, we have no way to deal with it right now. So play God Eternal Ketra at this moment. Could have used Samwise to rebuy Heliod and try again with Heliod, but I was just opting for the being able to spend more mana, but we're just drawing every single expensive card in our deck. There's, you know, all the 6 mana plays. We really don't have that many in this deck, but there they are. We'd love to chain a bunch of small creatures off Guardian Project to really get going. So we'll have to see what happens. Immortal Sun. Given enough time, that's going to get them tons of value. So they get another clock, Flickering Russo. And I really should have prioritized Heliod more, knowing with Displacer Kitten out, they're going to get so many flickers, and we could have been adding counters that whole time. Like, we could really be threatening them at this point. So I went for the more mana-efficient play of playing God Eternal Catcher, but I think Heliod would have been the choice. So it's at this point I grab Heliod, and you can, a little bit of foreshadowing from earlier, I ended up just playing it, but I should have went out of my way to use Delighted Halfling mana to give it uncounterable. So you could see it definitely does not default to Delighted Halfling. I had to seek it out. So right now it's on the stack, vulnerable, and it gets hit with a memory lapse. And you know, they get the little Displacer Kitten dance once again. So that really sucked, and that was very preventable. Like, we had on-demand, uncounterable. So I was new to Delighted Halfling. I wasn't used to having to force it to be used. So anyway, so that's a learning lesson right there. That was a misplay on my part. One tiny upside is that their counter's unavailable for Heliod's Punishment. So we are able to shut down Displacer Kitten. We can't put Heliod's Punishment on Russo because they'll be able to trivially just flicker Russo and knock it off. But by doing it on Displacer Kitten itself, it loses the ability to flicker. But we do knock them to 8 despite our little misplay of letting Heliod get countered. But opponent is going to have like multiple windfalls of cards with the different clocks going off. Not to mention Immortal Sun. So Jin Gataxius. That's not great for us. But we're still feeling okay. Cultivator's Caravan, sure. You know, we have a 4-power flyer already, so let's see what happens next. And then Nightmare Scenario, Shadow's Verdict, which kills everything except Oketra. So that was the whammy. The opponent was probably holding on to that for a while, not scared at all of our little tiny army. And now they're on the beatdown, and we're in big trouble because all of our mana dorks are gone. Their clocks are going off. So it's, I think, had Heliod landed earlier and we're able to accumulate some counters, it would have forced their hand for the Shadow's Verdict earlier at the very least. Or maybe we could have even killed them by strategically placing counters. So at least we, oh, okay, so Swan Song nabs are, so once again, the really wishing we gave it uncounterable back then, but we do get a 4/4 zombie for our efforts and are able to smack them. So they don't have a lot of defense for us right now. We knock them to 5, so it's looking grim with how much card draw they have, but we have some threats out. Unfortunately, Midnight Clock goes off, refills their hand, and they have more waiting in the wings. So if they can just keep emptying their hand, the other clocks are going to keep filling it. And you can see me move to accelerated speed right here because the opponent ends up really just going off right here. So they cast a Cold Steel Heart, get the flicker, Seagate Restoration. It's going to draw them a billion cards, and they cast Sea Double on the Restoration, and they're just going off. So they draw a million cards. The reason I'm not conceding is that because they have Midnight Clocks, they're going to force them to like reshuffle. I didn't realize that, you know, like at any point they want, they can just use Displacer Kitten to shut down the clocks that are going to mess them up. But with the extra turn spell in the stack, we're out. So that was a tough one. That was not very combo-y at all. It was sort of just mediocre creature beatdown. So we'll see if we can recover from that. Now we're facing Moldratha. One that I actually have in paper. Really liked it when I first encountered it in original Dominaria draft. But we get the turn 2 Samwise, and let's see what we can do from there. Cold Steel Heart from the opponent. And this seems like one of our better hands we've seen in these matches. Welcoming Vampire, food token, attack. So we're hoping to just get some card draw flowing. Opponent plays 3 seasons. Getting the self-mill going. They want to set up their graveyard for Moldratha. And there was a Turgid that hit the bin, so that's something we have to be careful about, because that is a very nasty card. Gilded Goose was an amazing draw. And look at that Soul Guide Lantern. That was an incredibly fortunate draw. That's going to allow us to sort of police their graveyard. Like, first of all, Turgid's out of there, and now we could sort of hold their graveyard hostage with the Soul Guide Lantern. So that's completely changed how this matchup looks for us, that one card right there. Now we do want Aetherflux Reservoir in play, to start getting that life. You could see me having a hard time figuring out what to do. We want Aetherflux Reservoir, but we also want the card draw of Welcoming Vampire. So in case we draw another play, I don't go for like the maximum size Hangerback Walker here. And yeah, we didn't draw an additional play, so maybe it was better just to max out Hangerback Walker there. Alright, Bioquartz Space Godzilla from the opponent. Good with the heavy self-mill theme that they likely have. Prosperous Innkeepers, nice. So let's see if we can make anything happen. We have Innkeeper. That's gonna, cause a litany of triggers to go off, including a card draw. Rampage of the Clans. Now there is something. So I'm already doing calculations like, all right, how many artifacts? What? Basically, all the artifacts are going to turn into 3/3s, and so counting how many they get versus how many I get for a lethal attack, and we're not. It seemed like we were going to be there, but then Liliana comes down. And they make a zombie. It doesn't seem like the math is quite there for us yet, especially because we'd had to sacrifice a treasure to cast Rampage. So end up using Touch the Spirit Realm on their end step. Probably would have been better to do it in their second main phase, because now the Innkeeper won't come back until our end step. So due to the wording on that. Now we do have Invasion of Ikoria. This is a new card. Basically, it's going to let us search for a creature with mana value X or less and put it into play. We don't really care about flipping the battle. We just care about searching for creatures. So I honestly wasn't quite sure what to grab. Thought about it for a bit, and we didn't have like a clear direction as far as a combo. But Rosie Cotton just seemed very good, just based on what we have out there. So we're able to start going off with Rosie Cotton. We get 2 food tokens there. Juice up our Welcoming Vampire. And we do have to worry about like a Liliana Ultimate, but decide that their life totals, we can pressure it enough to worry about Liliana later. Now, Prosperous Innkeeper finally comes back. Triggers off another round of Samwise and Rosie Cotton. What a good pair they are working together. Decide, oh yeah, I'm destroying all the artifacts. Probably should put some counters on Hangerback Walker. Vraska Relic Seeker comes down from the opponent. And they kill our Welcoming Vampire. But that's okay, because thanks to Innkeeper coming back, we actually have the requisite 4 mana for Rampage of the Clans.
Rise and shine.
And so opponent only has 1 card left. They could have a counter spell and blow it out, but decide just to go for it. And once again, doing some more calculations here, because we're losing the 2 treasures and 1 of the food tokens to Gilded Goose. So I'm just trying to make sure I'm going to have enough 3/3s. But Rosie is going to just make sure we have enough power and toughness. So I moved to accelerated speed here because there's a million triggers to click through, because all these tokens are created at the same time. So Rosie has a lot of counters to place. And we gain some life for some good measure, but we're able to just slam in here. Having already pre-calculated how much to kill them, this is lethal. But the opponent still tries to block anyway, it's fine. We just speed through this. And they realize it is over. Not only over, but overkill. So that's the power of Rampage of the Clans in this deck. Feels good to win one again. Move on to the next one. We're facing Urza, Prince of Krug. So the blue-white one. Snap off this hand, though it's not the most impressive one. The strongest card in it is Fauna Shaman. Surge Engine from the opponent. We're able to slam Samwise. Always trying to optimize the food tokens. So I'm reading Urza, make sure I understand it. Reality Chip. Surge Engine is pretty dang strong because for the low cost of 1 mana, it's now a 3/2 unblockable, which is only going to be able to get larger, so could cause us some problems. But we play a Jewel Thief, get a treasure and a food token. Can't attack into their 0/4, or at least can't profitably do it. Might have been able to do it. Might have been able to sneak 2 damage in by doing it with mana untapped, so that was probably a misplay by me. But Palladium Mirror is a problem. Definitely decide to Heliod's punish that over the unblockable creature, because really want to constrain their mana. Because we note that they missed a land drop, so they're probably counting on the Palladium Mirror to bail them out. So, so that was the rationale. But the unblockable creature is a problem. Like, we literally can't stop it right now. And the threat level just went up a lot because there's Nettle Cyst, which they can attach it to their unblockable creature and kill us in like 2 attacks with their deck. So that is a big problem. However, we have the power of Fauna Shaman on our side, so it really hurts to discard Welcoming Vampire. But we got to find some way to deal with the Nettle Cyst. Luckily, we have a bunch of utility things. Lauren of the Third Path seems like the clear choice here. Just a clean, +1 creature on our side, and they lose a Nettle Cyst. Not to mention if we can ever start flickering it. So yeah, we cut down Nettle Cyst. The Germ token's also going to die as a result. So, and we're able to attack in again for a tiny bit of damage. But Crisis averted. The opponent is keeping us on our toes, though. Mox Amber. Midnight Clock. There's some PTSD still from the Russo matchup, and all that glitters on the unblockable. Oh my goodness. Yikes. Okay, and yeah, they're going to slam us for 10 unblockable. We're dead next turn. Now, we do have Finale, to try and find something, but the opponent just keeps on making us have an answer. So instead, we're going to Fauna Shaman Peregrine Took, and luckily we still have some more utility creatures. I just go right for the Skyclave here. It's making me realize it would be nice to have a creature, sort of like a Restoration Angel type of creature, to just have flickered the Lauren against this opponent, but luckily we did have the Skyclave to grab the Surge Engine. We're able to attack in again, but the 0/4 is just preventing I don't know how much damage at this point. Now Finale can perform the same role as Fauna Shaman, but I wanted to hold back in case we need it for like a finisher. Scrap Trawler from the opponent. Now Mirror is not that far from being unshackled. They put Reality Chip on the Trawler, so now they'll be able to basically have like a future sight once it gets back to their turn. Decide to grab a Peregrine Took from the graveyard with Samwise, just to make sure we have fuel for Fauna Shaman. Heliod. Okay, that's really good. You could see my timer burning down because I'm trying to figure out what to even get at this point that's useful. Looking at the different options. Decide a Soul Warden is pretty good with the Heliod. So if we lead with Soul Warden, and Heliod is a creature at this point, so it's going to trigger Soul Warden. It's going to allow us to start delivering counters. So now we can start bashing through with more attackers. And decide to attack with Lauren and Jewel Thief. Jewel Thief is completely safe. Lauren has Vigilance, and we know they're not going to want to block because they want to turbo through their deck with the Reality Chip. So, Annex Sentry, oh my goodness. So the opponent keeps wiggling their way out of like whatever we're trying to do because we were one Scurry Oak away from the Heliod combo, but Heliod disappears now. So, Springleaf Drum, okay. Opponent's really going off land. Galma the Shaper. So opponent is fighting the good fight. I mean, like we're at a sort of precarious life total. And the clock might just redraw them into a full grip of cards still. Teferi's Protection is nice. That gives us like an insurance pen. We're going to rebuy Peregrine Took. He's just being abused right now, just being discarded to Fauna Shaman over and over. But yeah, we're just riding Fauna Shaman this game. Like, okay, so let's find our next utility creature to use against them. Let's see what we'll search up. Like, there's the Scurry Oak, but we're missing Heliod. Now we have sort of backup Skyclave with Shire Sheriff. And Samwise is going to give us the necessary food token to activate the sort of Skyclave mode on Sheriff. Now what we can do is grab their Annex Sentry to unshackle Heliod. And so now we're back on the path to setting up the Heliod Soul Warden Scurry Oak combo and placing a counter for good measure. So it's getting to the point where that combo is not super necessary since we have a 6/6 trample. But opponent has active Reality Chip. Decide, just to play it safe before they get a counter. I mean, they could have Pact of Negation. Just fire off Teferi's Protection. Let them do whatever they want in their turn, but they will not be able to alter our life total. So that was the thought for that. So opponent does make a 10-10 for good measure, but we happen to draw a creature, and Finale could have also gotten us Scurry Oak, but decide just to go right into the combo. So Fauna Shaman, which has been the MVP this game, grabbing the last piece. Here comes Scurry Oak. So we snag Scurry Oak, and we have everything in place to play Scurry Oak, and here it goes. The way it works is that playing a creature is going to trigger Soul Warden, which is going to trigger Heliod. So we place the Heliod counter on Scurry Oak, which then gives us another creature, which then gains us a life off Soul Warden, and opponent's seen enough. Alright, so that was our janky Samwise combos deck, and we went a respectable 3-2 across those games. And you could see we were either close to or did assemble combos a couple of those times. I think this deck gains a whole lot in the Commander format. The card that really elevates it the most is Krark Clan Ironworks. That allows it to sacrifice food tokens for mana, for even more explosiveness, but we can also set up blink loops with Eldrazi Displacer or Emil the Blessed and get combos going that way. So I think it really gains a lot by moving to Commander. You get a couple more token doublers, you get Krark Clan Ironworks, you get like Walking Ballista. So there's cool things like that, but this is just a fun deck to play. I wonder if it'd be better to lean away from the combos and just go for more like a synergy beatdown strategy with this. So I'll be curious to see what you think in the comments. Have you played Samwise, and what have you had success with? So anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.